Yeah, there's two of you, like the Doink Bra thing.
Yeah, it's there's tailor made and then tailor made.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Oh god. So how's things?
Oh, same old, same old.
Yeah.
Um, yep. Remember when we joked about lockdown free? Doesn't seem so funny
Oh
anymore.
no. Yeah. Ugh. Ugh.
But on the plus side, Twitter has just blocked Donald Trump. So, you know,
It's been a weird week.
such a weird week. Did you see all the crazy people breaking into is it Congress or whatever the American
Capitol
equivalent?
Hall or whatever it
Capitol,
was.
that's it, yeah.
I did, but more importantly, did you see Xena and Hercules arguing about it?
No.
The actor that played Hercules and the actress who played Xena had an argument on Twitter about it.
Oh, you mean Lucy? Is it Lucy Lawless? I want to say.
Lucy Lawless and Kevin Sorbo.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been wild. I was doing a Twitch stream, and yeah, I finished it up, and I was like, wow, I got a lot of messages during my stream, more than usual. And I look, and it's like a bunch of people that are like, dude, check the news. And I was like, oh no, what the hell is I was expecting like death or I don't know. Like I had no idea what to expect. And then I saw that and I was like, what a wacky place.
Mm. But
So, yeah,
it's very entertaining, at least. So
it was something.
it's a shame it ended in death and bloodshed. But yeah, it just goes to show like there's such a divide between the left and the right over there. It's going to be very interesting what happens now that the Democrats have taken the House and Joe Biden's about to be voted in.
Yeah, I don't want to go too much into it, but part of me just thinks this is only a start.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, fun times.
fun times. How have things been on your end?
Back working, super busy doing a bunch of different books, and wrestling's picked up this week. So my week's actually gone. It's flew by. Yeah, because Monday and Tuesday was the Tokyo Dome shows. So yeah, it's been those days flew by because I got to watch those while working.
Oh.
The perks of working from home.
Of course, yeah, because if you watch them live in Japan, it's like what in the morning over here.
Yeah. So it was pretty much. I didn't get. So when I'd woke up, the main event had started.
Yeah.
So I watched the main event, then waited for it to all get uploaded, and I could watch the whole show during the day.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. And Oka was there.
Yeah, it's so surreal, isn't it? Seeing somebody go from the Buckland Community Center to Tokyo Dome in like 6 months or 9 months, whatever it's been.
And doing really awesome at it.
Oh, yeah. Well, this week we're answering the questions from our fans, and
because we don't have any original ideas ourselves.
we've completely run out. And one of the questions, fresh from Kenneth Halfpenny, was they want us to talk about Wrestle Kingdom 15.
So, it was a show.
It was definitely a show.
No.
You're going to have to take most of this. I've only seen a handful of matches.
Okay, which matches did you see?
I saw Greater Khan versus Tanahashi, night one. I saw Okada versus Ospreay, night one. And then the only two matches on night two I watched was Jeff Cobb's match against Takagi.
Yep.
Go Takagi. And Ibushi versus Jay White.
Isn't Jay White the greatest professional wrestling storyteller of all time?
That main event, he pretty much got the book of heel things to do and went through point by point and did every heelish thing he possibly could in that match.
He is like Ric Flair when it comes to heel work.
Yeah.
He is so good. And that match, I think it's the longest match in Tokyo Dome history, I think they said.
How long was it? Yeah, it's definitely long, but how long was it?
I don't actually know. I'll quickly look it up, but it didn't feel that long to me. It felt like a half an hour match.
Yeah.
And Kota Ibushi just like looks and feels like a champion.
Oh, yeah. See,
And
he's somebody that we forgot about on our physiques last week. Him and Jay White, actually.
Yeah,
Best
Jay
wrestling
White.
physiques. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Match length. But like when he came out and he had both belts, I was like, that is a champion. That is what a champion looks like. Time. Control F time. 48 minutes.
Yeah, it was lengthy.
Yeah, and even at the end, even spoilers, when Jay White lost, like at the end of the match, he there and he saw the belts in the ring. He crawled over to try and just touch them.
One last time.
That dude is fantastic.
Yeah, and he's only 27.
I hate him.
Yeah. Well, it's like he's just a natural though. It's like even when we were in wrestling school, you could tell like he's just one of those guys who everything he does, he picked up first time. Like it's like, crossbody off the top rope, boom, perfect first time.
Yeah.
Drop kick, beautiful drop kick first time. Just everything he took to, he took to it like he'd been doing it for years. So he's the definition of a natural, but also a natural, like what happens when natural ability meets really, really hard work. Because he's a hell of a hard worker as well.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic. So I'm just going through the card now to see what was memorable. So the pre-show match for the first day was a 21-man rumble.
Yeah.
Where when they got to the final four, those would be the winners, and they would go on to have a fatal four-way the next day.
Okay.
But they did a unique finish where, as number 21 was coming to the ring, the last man got eliminated, so he never had to wrestle.
Mm.
Which apparently people had talked about doing that as a Royal Rumble finish years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gorillas of Destiny wrestled Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr. in a really fun old school tag team match. El Fantasma versus Hiromu Takahashi was really good. Phantasma did all his. I don't know if you've ever seen Phantasma wrestle, but he walks the ropes unassisted.
I think it's a Rev Pro show, but I haven't really seen much of his matches.
So he does this thing where he walks. The opponent will be on the outside. He will get on the top rope in the corner, walk the rope along to the middle of the ring unassisted, and do a moonsault.
It's crazy balance. It's insane.
Yeah.
I would not get like one step across the rope before I fell to the outside.
My second foot might touch it as I'm falling and my head hits. Yeah. But yeah, what else was it? Yeah, Okan Tanahashi was like
they're pushing our boy hard, aren't they? You're making him look very, very strong. Even in defeat.
It was just like Hiroshi Tanahashi having an awesome match. Like Okan, it was sort of like watching like a Hulk Hogan in the 90s where it's like, here comes the monster heel.
Yeah.
And the babyface is going to wrestle them and they're going to have a good match. And Okan looked great and he was awesome. And there was someone dressing up as him in the crowd. Yeah, so that was awesome. Okada and Will Ospreay was probably match of the night.
Yeah, it was decent. Like I say, I only saw 2 matches that night.
Will Ospreay as a heel is so good. And Okada is so good. It's hard to say a bad thing about Okada, and his matches are always fantastic. And he has this weird way of doing matches where it's a slow build, and by the end, he's just counter. And like, if you say that, it sounds boring, but there's so much drama in Okada's matches.
Yeah.
And I was just happy. The match made me happy, which I can't say that. Like, you forget that wrestling should make you happy.
Yeah.
And when you watch this, I was like, I'm so happy watching this wrestling. And then Kota Ibushi and Tetsuya Naito I went in thinking one of these guys might not walk out. And they both walked out, so thank God. But it was like knowing that one of them would have to come back the next day and do another match.
Another brutally long match as well.
Yeah, so the first match was 31 minutes, but neither of them held anything back. They both did all their crazy stuff. It was great. The second day, I will be honest, I haven't seen everything. So I'll just talk about the Hiromu Takahashi Taiji Ishimori match, which was the first time I felt like a juniors match at a Wrestle Kingdom has felt really important. Because usually it's like either halfway in the card or it's at the beginning of the card.
Yeah.
But this one, it felt maybe because Hiromu Takahashi is like a monster, popular wrestler. Like seems that every woman loves Hiromu Takahashi. So it was great to see that it felt important. The match felt important.
Yeah.
And then Kota Ibushi versus Jay White went 48 minutes, and Kota Ibushi had just wrestled 31 minutes the day before.
Yeah. Oh.
And Jay White is the perfect heel, and Kota Ibushi was an amazing good guy. And it was just so good.
Yeah.
And the storytelling was great, like Jay White working the stomach, because if he can do that, then Kota Ibushi can't hit his Phoenix Splash.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a fantastic show. And like, you know, I'm still bitter about watching WWE shows where I'd watch them and I'd be like, I hate this. Where I'm so, at the end of that show, I was just elated that I'd seen 2 great days of wrestling where there was no bad matches and the good guy won in the end. And it was like what you needed at this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Kota Ibushi teased a bunch of Kenny Omega stuff in his match with Jay White. Like when he won the belts against Jay White, he did the Omega Terminator pose.
Do you think they're teasing possibly they're going to destroy they call it the Forbidden Door?
Well, that was something that came out the day before, where after Kenta, was it before? There was a US title challenge match, and either before or after, the video played of Jon Moxley at the LA dojo, and it was well, I can't say because I don't know these things for facts, but it was reported that anyone who works for AEW cannot wrestle for New Japan in the United States.
Oh, okay.
But obviously, no, like Moxley and Jericho and all these guys could wrestle for New Japan, but only in Japan.
Okay.
But obviously, with this news, that means that Moxley is working for New Japan in America. So is that, and the former president of New Japan stepped down, and there's a new president who's more open, apparently. So there are little signs here and there that they could be working towards that sort of thing. But
aren't they planning a US TV show?
They've got a TV deal.
Oh, okay, they've already got it.
And a UK TV deal. So I think it's going to be in Eurosports.
It's going to be such a challenge, I think, to make the migration to US and Western viewers.
I could, yeah, it's hard, but with their commentary and with their presentation, it would work better than any other wrestling. Like, yeah. I hope it could do well. I want it to do well because anyone that I show New Japan to who's not a wrestling fan always look at it and go, this is the kind of wrestling I would watch if I was watching wrestling because it looks more like a sport.
Yeah.
Like my dad will watch New Japan.
Wow, really?
Yeah, he went to Royal Quest.
Oh, yeah, you did tell me, yeah.
With my brother. Yeah, like if New Japan comes on, he's like, oh, this, like, it's not hokey, cartoony bullshit. It's not, oh, I'm going to beat you up because you slammed my girlfriend. Or in this backstage promo where we talked for 20 minutes, you said this one. Like, they're wrestling for championship belts.
Yeah.
It's a sport.
Sport, yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, like, it's not, there's no bullshit storyline. It's like, I'm in this sport because I'm a sports person and I want this belt because that means I get more money and I'm the best in this league. And my dad is like, yes, that is what would happen. So I feel like if you could get it in front of audiences, New Japan would do better than other promotions. But yes, they have a TV deal. They announced it on January the 4th that they'll be announcing who it's with sometime this month. But yesterday they announced that in India, they've got a TV deal with Eurosport India, which makes me think that maybe it might be a Eurosport deal internationally. But yeah, what were your thoughts on the Wrestle Kingdom matches that you did see?
Flipping hell. It just every time I watch New Japan, it just makes me think, man, I couldn't work in New Japan because I do like dropped on my head all the time, and I don't think my neck could take it. So many like just stiff shots to the neck and head bumps. It scares me. But yeah, the standout match to me was Jeff Cobb versus Takagi. What title was that for?
The Never Open Weight.
Okay.
Which, when it debuted, it was meant to be like juniors and heavyweights could wrestle each other, but it sort of morphed into a strong style belt.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
But juniors can challenge for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Jeff Cobb, we've talked about him before. He's just freakishly strong. That belly to belly he gave on the outside was ridiculous. Like, threw Takagi like 9 feet over his head.
What did you think of Shingo Takagi, though? Is that your first time seeing him?
I think so, yeah. Well, I've probably seen the clips of him, but I think it's probably the first full match I've seen of his.
Isn't he like the most explosive wrestler?
Yeah, yeah.
His 0 to 60 is like instant. Oh,
I just really like watching Jeff Cobb at the moment. He feels like Samoa Joe just been mushed with Brock Lesnar.
That's yeah. Oh, if there could be a promotion that would just have him being that sort of champion. Yeah, I think I think he's New Japan. I think he could win. I don't know, like the US belt and be like a dominant Samoa Joe-esque champion.
Yeah, be a representative of the US or US strong style. But yeah, overall very enjoyable. As I say, I wish I knew like more of the stories going in because I just went into this cold, so I didn't really know like what storylines or anything were leading up. But yeah, very enjoyable matches from what I saw.
I haven't really. Oh, there was a show the day after as well called New Year's Dash, where normally in a normal year that would be like their Raw after WrestleMania, so there would be some big piece of news to come out.
Yeah,
and that's also where they set up the angles that will follow for the next pay-per-view. And a lot of people were let down that there wasn't like a big, like the rumor obviously was going to be, oh, Kenny Omega's going to show up and he's going to be there because it's New Year's Dash. And it's like, no, because he's the AEW champion and he's not going to just turn up in Japan for this one thing and then go back. So a lot of people were let down by that, but I saw it as just a chance for the guys to have a tag match, have like not an easy day off, but just like a kind of like a cool down period.
Yeah, recovery.
Before we go back into the next thing, which I don't know if they're doing because Japan's going into a second lockdown, so hopefully they're not going to stop. They opened their borders a little bit and lots of people went there and got them sick, so hooray. And they opened, there's like a bunch of different things that happened all at once that caused their case rating to go up. So
well, at least they got to have the fans in for Wrestle Kingdom.
Yes, they were supposed to be limited to 5,000.
Yeah.
But the government announced that after tickets were on sale. So they said, okay, if tickets are on sale, just sell your tickets, and then any event after that are going to be capped. So they had like, I want to say 12,000 people there. And they clapped and they made noise. They didn't.
Everybody was wearing a mask and everybody was,
Yeah. And the wrestlers, after their matches, they didn't go back up the ramp where they could interact with a wrestler waiting for their next match.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, they're doing things logically and to the best of their ability, and I praise them for that. I applaud them.
So it should be done.
Yeah. So how's this going to work? Have you got like a list of questions?
Yeah, I messaged you.
Yes, I saw a photo of some of them, yeah.
Have you got any of your own? Or anything you want to carry over from last week that you want to talk about before we get into these?
Let's have a look. What's the one by Steve LP?
Steve LP from Guernsey asks. Oh, great. I've lost mine. Oh, what went through your mind the first time you took a bump? Or your first bump?
Would you like to go first?
Yeah. I pretty much thought, well, it doesn't matter how much it hurts. You're going to have to do a lot of these, so get used to it, essentially. Yeah.
What did you expect when you stood on the ring? Like when you stood up on the apron, you're like, I'm going to take a bump. What did you think? Like, how did it compare to your expectations?
It wasn't that bad. I think I was probably anticipating it to be worse.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, it depends how well you bump. If you bump well, then it's not going to hurt that much.
There's this weird thing where new people coming into the ring were like, you tell them how to bump and they're like, oh, I'm going to fall, land on my bum and roll backwards. That way it will hurt less.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, the harder you hit that mat, it may sound scary, but the harder you hit that mat, the less it hurts.
Yeah. Attack the mat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it did take me a while to get my bumping down perfectly.
Was it a standard back bump, your first bump?
Yeah. And what they did was they squat down, grab the middle rope, and then bump from almost like a squatting position.
Okay.
So it wasn't a full standing bump, and then you kind of progress from there. But yeah. As I say, the more you do it, the easier it gets, as Andy Crawdon likes to say. So yeah, as the bumps went on, they became less and less painful, and now you don't even notice it. It's so weird.
If someone asks me to bump, I'm always like, ugh. But if I'm in a match and someone drop kicks me, I'm taking a bump. I'm not going to think about it. Like, if you just ask me to take a bump, it always feels worse than if I'm in a match and I have to bump.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Like, it's easier to bump off a clothesline or a boot or anything than it is to just stand there and bump.
Yeah, a dry bump, as I like to call them.
Just, a dry bump. That's a perfect word for it. Love
it. I never enjoy a dry bump. My first bump was the same, but we did like the whole squat down, elbows on your knees, and imagine a rug being pulled out from in front of you.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just kick your feet up in the air, slam back as high as you can. My first bump, I just remember being like, that wasn't bad at all. And because I don't know why, but my first bump was really good. And my first couple, and then it was when I had my first bad bump, where I don't know, wasn't paying as much attention as I should have. And I did it, and I was like, oh, no, this is a bad bump.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get better at these bumps, but flip bumps, the longest time. It took me 3 years to get down a flip bump.
I still can't do a flip bump. I still barely clear the ground. I just can't jump that high.
Yeah, my one was I kept going over my left shoulder.
Yeah, I do that as well.
But I found that if I imagine I have a rugby ball between my legs, and when I jump, pretend I'm throwing it between my legs. So I make that motion, like a crotch chop. My head will follow my arms, and I end up doing straight ones. Oh. You can't really do that when you're taking a hip toss.
Yeah,
it's not like hip toss. Wait a minute, let me get the rugby ball. But yeah, you see a lot of trainees where it's like, they just have this weird fear of not wanting to get hurt, but they don't realize that by bumping badly, you are hurting yourself.
Yeah. You've got to fight pretty much every instinct that your body's grown up with, because
yes,
in no like if you're going to fall over, your body wants to fall on its side or on its bum. You know, your body doesn't default to falling on its back very well. It's completely unnatural.
Yeah, I have found though that one time I was walking through some woods and there was a bit of slippery mud and I slipped and fell and I did the perfect side bump. I was like, oh, instinct.
Throw your arm out and spread the
Yes.
impact, and yeah.
I got up on my right hand side. That's one of the best compliments I think we ever got as a school was when Rhino came down and he was watching us bump and he was like, all you guys get up like wrestlers. Because we all got up on the right hand side.
Yeah.
No one bumped and then sat up on their bum and pushed themselves up.
It just takes extra time. It's like, and it's really awkward and it feels like more effort. Whereas if you roll to your right hand side and onto your elbow, and yeah.
So yeah, that was a good question because we never really covered that, did we? That should be a question if we ever interview wrestlers again, like we did with Kenneth Halfpenny and Will Castle. It should be, what was your first bump like?
Yeah. What's another one we've got here? Tuts 1993 asks, what do you not like about wrestling? Product you watch or taking part yourself? You go ahead first.
So what don't I like in what I watch is storylines where it's not about wrestling, where it's not about going for a title, because like I say, I like things to be sport-like, and it's like this is meant to be, people are coming into this like AEW. People go there because they want to be AEW champion, but people in WWE go there because I don't know, because they're not there for belts. They just happen to be there, and then wrestling matches sort of happen. That's what it feels like. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to go into that whole rant, but as for what don't I like to do in shows, I think it's the same for every wrestler when they start. But I hate doing promos. Wow,
really? Because you're a strong flipping promo. You're very charismatic, and you've got a lot of character in you've got a lot of character in your character. You know?
Thank you. I appreciate it. But I'm just like, I don't know. I always feel like I'm being fake pro wrestler when I'm talking, because there's that weird temptation to be like,
well, let me tell you something, brother.
I was just going to say every wrestler that can't do a promo just goes, let me tell you something. Yeah. And I'm just like, no, it's not. And I think I tweeted that once. It's like, it's not a wrestling promo unless you say, let me tell you something. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, because I can do a pro. It's when they're just like, oh, I don't know. When you're doing a promo for a show where you don't know the guy you're working with, there's no storyline going into it, then why? What, like, am I doing a promo about myself?
Yes.
Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, that's always the one thing. Like, at training, they're making us do more improv promos. Like, you're going to run the rope for a minute, then you have to do a promo on the rope.
Oh yeah, they're brutal.
Which, I once heard a story. There's a DVD with Punk and Cabana in Ring of Honor talking about their old early days, and they said that when they used to go to supermarkets together, they would challenge each other to cut promos on people they saw in the supermarket.
Oh, that's awesome.
So part of me is like, yeah. And I do practice promos in my car when I'm driving to training.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where someone's like, cut a promo, every time I just like go, yeah. What about you, good sir?
I will tell you after we take a short break because I am thirsty for pee. So should we call that the end of part 1?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. And going for a pee break.